who knew exactly what he was doing. After I was elected in 1972 as a 29-year-old kid, I was number 100 out of 100 in Senate seniority. And Leader Byrd offered up, he was then the whip, he offered his office to me to come down from Delaware so I could have a place to interview staff members. It was in his office and the connection his secretary put through that I received a call telling me that about an accident which took the life of my wife and my daughter. And when they were buried, we held a memorial service a couple days later in Delaware where thousands of people showed up, and it was a bone-chilling slate day of rain, and people couldn't get in the church. And I never knew it initially, but Robert C. Byrd, and I think you may have driven him up, Nick, drove up on his own with Nick to that church. He stood outside for the better part of an hour in a driving rainstorm where the temperature was below 32. When my brother saw him and asked him to come in, he said no. He wouldn't displace anyone. He stayed there for the entire service. When the service was over, he got in his vehicle and he drove back, never attempting to be noticed, never seeking to know, as my deceased wife used to say, the real measure of generosity is, would you do it and no one ever knew you did it? Well, Robert C. Byrd did that. I was appreciative of what he did, but I quite frankly didn't understand until a couple years later. I was in his office, and behind his desk was a huge boot cast in bronze. It was Michael's boot. It was his grandson's boot. And all of a sudden, it came so crystal clear to me who this guy was. I'd known him, but I understood immediately what he was about. For him, it was all about family. It was not just Irma, his beloved wife of 69 years. It was not just his daughters, his grandchildren, great-grandchildren, all of whom were in our prayers today. It was an awful lot of you. I'll bet if he were here, he could look out and name you, and tell you what your father or mother did for him, what your grandmother or grandfather did for him, and how you made such and such of yourself. Clearly in his own life, Robert Byrd suffered a lot of hardships. You all know the story, losing his mom, being raised and adopted by an aunt and uncle, grown up in a home without electricity or water, having to work at an early age. He had an incredible, incredible determination. One that I don't think any of my colleagues have ever witnessed, to be my guess. But you know, this man was, it wasn't just that, as President Clinton pointed out, that at age 47 as a sitting congressman, or 45, he went and got a law degree. I don't know whether you know, you probably do, Mr. President. He got that law degree without having a college degree. And at age 77, he went to Marshall University and completed his work, getting his college degree. Because to him, in my view, and I don't know, the family would tell you this, and to him, I think he felt there was something wrong with the fact that he got the law degree without graduating. He didn't need that undergraduate degree. But it was Bob Byrd, to quote John Stennis, plowing to the hedgerow and to the end of the row. The remarkable thing about him is he traveled a hard path. He devoted his life, though, to making that path a little easier for those who followed. This is a guy who continued to taste and smell and feel the suffering of the people of his state. He tasted it. That's why it was so deeply ingrained in him. It wasn't just a moral obligation. This guy remembered and he unapologetically has been pointed out did everything to improve the lives of the people of Delaware by stealing all the money from Delaware, Tennessee, Texas, California that he could possibly get. You remember, Governor, there were 2 campaigns ago, he's getting beat up for trying to move, was it 2 campaigns ago, to have the FBI move down to West Virginia. And the national press was beating him up. And I was on the floor with him, and he just had gotten ripped in a press conference about that. And he, you know how he used to grab you by the arm and walk me back? He said, "Joe, I hope they keep throwing me in the briar patch." But I tell you what, you West Virginians owe a lot of people in Delaware for a lot of money we should have gotten and you got. I just want you to know that. So be nice to the rest of us. And by the way, if you doubt any of it, just drive here. You cross the Robert C. Byrd Drive, the Robert C. Appalachian Highway, the Robert C. Library and Learning Center, the Robert C. Byrd Clinic, the Robert C. Federal Building in Charleston, and on and on and on. But ladies and gentlemen, of course, it's more than the name we're not going to forget. It's his courage. He died like he lived. He died like he lived his life. He never stopped fighting. How many people would have hung on as long as he did? How many people would have had the ability to get back out of that hospital bed and get in a wheelchair and come in and vote for this? He never stopped thinking about his people and the things he cared about. Speaking several weeks ago, this week actually, when Robert Byrd said, quote, "Like Jefferson and Adams, I'm inspired to continue serving the land I love to the very best of my abilities for the whole of my years." Well, he served the land he loved. He served the people he loved. He served the people who were in his blood. And because of that service, you have gained greatly. And with his loss, you're the first who will feel that loss. But it's not just West Virginia alone. It's all of us. I said of him when I learned of his death, I was on an errand for the president in Cleveland. And I said, you know, to paraphrase the poet, we shall not see his like again. Had he been there, he would have said, "Joe, that's Shakespeare. Hamlet, Act 1, Scene 2. And the actual quote is, I shall not look upon his like again." Well, Mr. Leader, we're not going to look upon your like again. I'm not even going to ask God to bless you because he already has, and I know where you are. And may God bless your family. May God bless this state and this country, and may God protect our troops. Thank you.